I knew something was off the second Marissa waltzed into the conference room like she owned it. Heels too loud, perfume too strong, and a smile that felt like it had been practiced in a mirror while saying, "I'd like to speak to your manager." She was 30 minutes late to a meeting that could define the next decade of the company, and when she finally sat down, smack in the middle seat across from me, like it was the damn royal court, she didn't even apologize. Just fluffed her blazer, leaned into the client with that overly breathy MBA voice and said, "Sorry, logistics was a nightmare. Corporate should really review who handles travel coordination." I was the one who booked her flight. Business class, direct, with her stupid meal preferences noted, gluten-free but not in like an annoying way. She didn't look at me once, not when I handed out the compliance packet, not when the client asked about policy adherence checkpoints. Not even when she laughed, loud enough to stop conversation and said, "Remind me again what she does?" And then gestured vaguely toward me like I was part of the decor. Is this just one of those legacy admin roles? We inherited so much dead wood in the merger, it's hard to keep track. Dead wood. I've been at that company longer than she's been legally allowed to drink Chardonnay. Oh, and if you're enjoying this story and somehow haven't hit that little subscribe button yet, do me a solid. It's free, it helps more than you know, and honestly, our team gets a weird kick out of watching that number go up. Plus, hitting like tells the algorithm that you're not just lurking like Marissa at a strategy session. Be the hero she never was. Back to the crime scene. See, I've always played the long game. That's what you learn in compliance. You're not there to scream. You're there to document the screams of others. So I smiled. That perfectly botoxed, I've seen your LinkedIn kind of smile. Because while she was showing off her new title, VP of People Operations, which is HR with a fancier font, I was already clocking the gaps. She hadn't read the acquisition protocol packet. She confused the term signatory chain with some kind of physical badge system. And during the financials walkthrough, she asked if EBITDA was still a thing. I wish I were joking, but I nodded, took notes, and when the meeting ended, I gathered my folder like I always do, quietly, efficiently, invisibly. That's the thing about being the most necessary person in the room. If you're really good at it, they forget you're there. Until they can't. Back in my office, I fired off 3 emails, 2 routine, 1 not. The third was a quick note to our outside counsel to confirm the federal filing timestamp for the compliance charter. Not because anything was wrong yet, but because I'd seen enough to know someone was going to step in it. 10 minutes later, Marissa knocked, if you can call it that. She kind of hovered in the doorway with the smugness of a cat who thinks it's about to push something expensive off a shelf. "Hey," she said, like we were sorority sisters bumping into each other at a reunion. "Can I snag 5? I motioned her in. She didn't sit. So she began, pacing slightly. "This is going to sound like out of the blue, but leadership and I have been reviewing org structure, and we think it might be healthy for you to take a little breather. Nothing bad, just like a week off. Reset, recharge," I blinked. "Are you formally placing me on leave?" "No," she laughed, "that's so aggressive. This is just restructuring vibes. We'll keep paying you, obvi, but yeah, starting tomorrow." I stared at her. "And the $150 million acquisition? Oh, loop someone else in." Honestly, it's mostly clerical at this point. Clerical. I watched her leave, humming as she typed something on her phone, probably updating her Instagram with a selfie, and the caption making moves briefcase sparkles #girlboss. And then I closed the door and opened the drawer where I keep the original compliance architecture, signed, stamped, and filed with the Securities Commission. The one that clearly states, in bold black ink, that no acquisition exceeding $100 million can proceed without the documented approval and live signature of one Hannah E. Blackwell, Director of Compliance, Regulatory Division. Clerical, my ass. I sat back, cracked my knuckles, and whispered to the silence, "Let's see how this plays out." The next morning, I found a post-it note on my monitor that said, "Let's chat speech balloon M." It was pink, sparkly, smelled like lip gloss and poor judgment. I peeled it off and dropped it straight into the shred bin without breaking stride. My coffee was still hot, and I hadn't even opened my inbox yet. But I knew what was coming. Marissa showed up at 9:07, flanked by someone from HR who looked like she wanted to fall into a ceiling tile and disappear. This one, Clara, I think, had been sweet at the holiday party, always smiled in the hallway. Today, she looked like someone had just told her the office was out of coffee forever. Marissa didn't even wait for greeting. She sailed in like a mall kiosk perfume sprayer, arms wide, voice bright. "Hi, okay, Suo, we've been doing a lot of high-level alignment and leadership, and there's a lot of shifting energy, you know?" I gave her a look that said, "Try me." So she continued, "We thought it might be really healthy for the org if you took some intentional space, like a week off to let the restructure breathe. We're calling it a strategic refresh." Paid, of course. She beamed like she just invented vacation. I turned to Clara. "Is this documented?" Clara gave a slow blink, then mumbled, "It's not formal. More of a suggested reset." "I see," I said. "And who's handling my responsibilities during this refresh?" "Oh," Marissa chirped. "We're assigning them to Trevor from Ops. He's super hungry for stretch goals." Trevor, the same man who once asked if GDPR was that thing from Game of Thrones. "You do know," I said carefully, "that I'm the final signatory on any deal over $100 million. That includes M and oversight." Marissa giggled. Oh, Hannah, don't be so literal. That's just on paper. In real life, deals move because people move. And Trevor is like really agile right now. Clara made a sound, like she tried to swallow a sigh, but it caught in her throat and escaped anyway. I nodded once. You're right. Some things are just on paper. Then I stood up. Not to make a scene, God no, never that. I just wanted them to feel how tall I actually was when I wasn't hunched over someone else's disaster. I walked to the door, opened it for them like I was hosting a brunch I hated, and said, "Enjoy your day, ladies." They left, high heels clicking in chaotic sync. I shut the door behind them and locked it. Then I moved. First stop, my file drawer. I pulled out the sealed envelope marked Black Swan Protocol. It wasn't as dramatic as it sounds, but the name had always amused me. Inside were the documents I'd hoped I'd never need: the original compliance charter, the federal notice of appointment, and the co-signed amendment that confirmed my authority couldn't be bypassed without a 3-month federal refiling. Which, for the record, hadn't happened. Next, I opened my document server, scanned for any draft filings on the $150 million acquisition. Marissa had submitted one, unsigned, undated, and laughably incomplete. She'd bolded her name at the top of the org chart and underlined authorized to represent. No timestamp. No approval chain, no compliance review notes. It was like watching a toddler try to forge a permission slip to go to Disneyland. I clicked print all, the printer in my office whirred to life like it had been waiting for this moment. I sat beside it, watching page after page feed out, quietly, methodically, like a factory for receipts. Midway through, I picked up my desk phone, not my cell. There's a reason I still keep a landline. I called Harold, my old mentor, who'd helped write the compliance playbook over a decade ago, still on retainer. Still dangerous when ignored. Picked up after one ring. If you're calling me, someone stepped on a rake. They just tried to put me on ice, I said. You have the original form still in my hand and the acquisition, $150 million, with federal review triggers baked into the oversight. Silence. Then, you want me to nudge the regulators, or you playing the long game? Long game, I said. I want them to feel it. He let out a low whistle. Text me if they do anything stupid. I'll prep the watchdogs just in case. I hung up, printed 2 more copies of everything and slid them into separate sealed folders. One for legal, one for the client's chief counsel, just in case. By lunchtime, Marissa had already posted a team-wide Slack announcement titled, "Hannah's Recharge Week, let's show her some love." Sparkling heart, I could have thrown my mouse across the room. Instead, I updated the compliance log to reflect pending internal disruption, which, legally, triggers an automatic caution flag on any deal above the reporting threshold. Let the algorithm trip. Let the questions begin. I wasn't going anywhere, they just didn't know it yet. That night I went home, fed the cat, and poured a glass of wine I didn't taste. The kind of wine that sits on your tongue like metal, but you drink it anyway because you're trying not to scream into a throw pillow while your neighbor practices saxophone like he's summoning geese. I didn't even change out of my work clothes. I just kicked off my shoes, sat at the dining room table, and opened the black accordion folder I hadn't touched in years, the one labeled employment plus regulatory docs. It still smelled like toner and vengeance. Inside, my original offer letter, still on thick ivory cardstock with the old company letterhead. I ran my thumb over the raised embossing like it was a holy relic, back when contracts were printed, not just PDFs floating in a SharePoint graveyard. Then came the juicy part, the 2012 Compliance Annex, signed by then CEO Harold S. Wagner and countersigned by yours truly, confirming that any merger or acquisition activity exceeding $100 million required live compliance certification. Not review, not advisory, certification, by me. Name spelled out in triplicate. Title, Director of Compliance, Regulatory Chain of Custody Division. The only person legally authorized to certify final sign-off on federally scrutinized transactions. And they thought Trevor from Ops could just click send? That was cute. I flipped to the 2018 amendment we'd added after the Skylar Tech debacle, when a junior exec approved a licensing deal that triggered an SEC investigation and almost landed us on a no-bid list. That amendment made my involvement even stricter. I had to provide a station of no internal disruption affecting the compliance chain at the time of certification, which meant Marissa's little refresh week stunt. It legally froze the deal the second she tried it, and she had no idea because she hadn't read a single binding page. I didn't even need to interfere. I just had to sit back and watch. Still, I wasn't reckless. I scanned the documents into an encrypted drive, ran a backup to a USB with a physical toggle lock, and slid the originals back into the accordion file like I was tucking in a baby dragon. I placed it in the fireproof box beneath my bed, next to my earthquake kit and my passport, essentials. Then I called Harold again. He answered with a yawn. This a wine call or a lawsuit call? Lawsuit adjacent, I said. Question. When we filed the federal charter update in 2018, the one tied to personnel disruptions, did we include language about non-sanctioned leave directives? He paused. You mean if someone tried to boot you without board authorization? Exactly. Oh yeah. Clause 4.2 subsection B. We baked in language that says any attempt to unilaterally disrupt compliance oversight nullifies downstream signatory activity until resolution. Basically, they try to sideline you, the deal slams into a brick wall. I lean back in my chair so I don't need to warn them. Nope. In fact, if you did, you'd be breaching neutrality. Just keep records. Don't lift a finger. Perfect. He lowered his voice. You sure you're okay? I looked at the neat row of binders on my bookshelf. The wall calendar with all the acquisition deadlines highlighted in color-coded ink. The cat curled up on the couch like a tiny judgmental pillow. And I felt it, not rage, not panic. Purpose. I'm better than okay, I said. I'm documented. We talked 5 more minutes, mostly about Harold's bonsai collection and his new hatred of almond milk. Then I hung up and opened my laptop. The client's legal team had sent a calendar hold for final acquisition doc review, internal and external leads. It was scheduled for Friday. Guess who wasn't on the invite? Me. I clicked forward, sent it to myself, then hit reply all and wrote, per compliance charter, any final documentation review over the $100M threshold requires regulatory chain sign-off. Please confirm who is representing compliance at this meeting. I have not been informed of reassignment or process deviation. Then I signed it. Hannah Blackwell, Director, Compliance Oversight Charter Signatory Regulatory Transactions 4.2, B. No threats. No drama. Just a gentle reminder that if they forgot who I was, the system didn't. My inbox lit up within 5 minutes. The client's legal associate replied with a short line. Thank you, Hannah. We'll double-check the approval chain. I shut the laptop, took a long sip of that metallic wine, and smiled. Let them run their meetings. Let them hand out Post-its and clap for Trevor. Let Marissa post her little vision alignment updates on LinkedIn with photos of glass-walled conference rooms and the caption, "Great things happening here, briefcase rocket." None of it mattered, because while they played house in the boardroom, I held the only key to the door, and they had no idea it was already locked. By Wednesday morning, the walls had begun to whisper. Not in the dramatic, haunted house way. This wasn't a ghost story, it was corporate. And in corporate, whispers wear loafers and carry reusable water bottles that say hustle harder while nervously checking Slack threads marked fire urgent. I heard it first in the elevator. 2 junior analysts from finance, talking in that fake hush people use when they want to be overheard. Compliance still hasn't signed off, right? No idea. I heard she's on leave, she's not. I saw her car yesterday. The doors opened, they saw me. They smiled like guilty kids caught peeking at Christmas presents. I didn't say a word, just walked out, heels echoing like punctuation marks. Upstairs, the usual pretense of structure had begun to splinter. People pretending not to panic while quietly chasing signatures. Legal pinging ops. Ops pinging legal. The project manager updating the Gantt chart 5 times a day like rearranging columns would change reality. And then there was Marissa. Marissa had gone full PR crisis mode, which is to say, she was sending long-winded, emoji-filled emails directly to the client, CCing the board, and using phrases like synergy checkpoint and 99% execution alignment. In one message, she flat-out stated, the compliance portion is fully addressed. All systems are go. I stared at that line so long I started to wonder if I'd fallen into a satire. Like maybe The Office had rebooted as a psychological thriller. She didn't CC me. Rookie mistake. I printed the email, highlighted the lie, filed it in my growing folder titled Insurance just in case. Then I sent a separate message, no drama, no headline, just a simple line to the client's legal liaison. Quick note. Please ensure your team has reviewed the chartered protocol chain for compliance sign-off. It should be embedded in your due diligence checklist. That was it. 5 hours later, I found a note on my desk. Handwritten, folded, no name. Inside, they're scrambling. She's trying to slide unsigned docs through internal. It took me a second, then I smiled. Rachel, the CFO's assistant. Been there 8 years, quiet as a mouse and twice as observant. She'd once caught a rounding error that saved us $200K in back taxes. People thought she was just scheduling meetings. Those people were idiots. Didn't respond. Just left a tiny thank you, a Starbucks gift card and a sticky note with a smiley face. She'd know. By Thursday, the deal's timeline was visibly fraying. I could see it in how people walked too fast, heads down, clutching laptops like shields. Someone from legal cornered me at the Keurig. Hey Hannah, real quick, totally off the record, but the compliance sign-off, is that like in motion? I raised an eyebrow. Are you asking if I've signed it? No. No, just is it blocked? I sipped my coffee. If it were blocked, it'd be in the system. He looked like he'd just stepped on a rake. Cool, he said, retreating into the hall like he was backing away from a lion. By afternoon, someone had resurrected the old policy tracker, something we only dust off when things are going sideways. I watched from my glass office as a half-dozen execs huddled around a shared monitor, refreshing the dashboard like it owed them money. Marissa, meanwhile, had begun to unravel at the edges. She'd sent out a department-wide progress update with 17 bullet points and 2 completely contradictory statements about final clearance. In one line, she said sign-offs were 100% in process. In another, she said completed and archived. Pick a lie and stick to it, sweetheart. At 4:42 p.m., Rachel struck again. A forwarded email. Subject line, heads up, she's scheduling a client walkthrough without compliance. No signature, just the trailing metadata. It was real. That's when I knew I didn't need to lift a finger to stop this train wreck. I just had to stand at the crossing and watch. Still, I wasn't careless. I added another line to my formal memo log. Observed attempt to misrepresent compliance status to external parties, recommend audit trail preservation. Not an accusation, just breadcrumbs. That evening I had one more quiet meeting off-site. I met the client's legal liaison, a woman named Miranda, at the espresso bar across from HQ. We'd known each other professionally for years, both allergic to fluff, both believers in ink over air. She sat down, ordered a triple shot, and skipped pleasantries. I'll keep it blunt, she said. We've been told compliance is covered. I stirred my drink. Is that what your internal checklist reflects? No. Which is why I'm here, I nodded once. Then make sure your team checks the protocol chain. You'll find the answer there. She looked at me. So you haven't signed anything? I can't confirm that, I said, lips barely curving. But if I had, it would have triggered a timestamp. The system doesn't lie. Miranda leaned back, exhaled, and said, Jesus, they really tried to ice you out. I shrugged, not my first rodeo. Are you gonna warn them? Nope. She grinned. Good. You deserve the fallout. We clinked paper cups in silent solidarity. Then she left to report back. And I walked home knowing one thing with absolute certainty. Marissa was about to learn the hard way that the only thing worse than underestimating a compliance officer is ignoring one. Friday morning hit like a gavel. The calendar invite came through at 7:03 a.m. sharp. Subject line, final acquisition, review all signatories required. Sent by Miranda from the client's legal team. No emojis, no fluff. Just the kind of subject line that makes blood pressure rise in senior leadership and sends HR into a quiet prayer circle. I was CC'd this time. Progress. The meeting was scheduled for 9:30 a.m. In conference room A, our fanciest room, complete with a faux marble table, terrible acoustics, and a giant wall-mounted screen no one knew how to operate without calling IT. When I walked in, 3 people were already seated, 2 from the client's acquisition team and Miranda, whose face was carved in stone. She looked like someone had replaced her coffee with battery acid. Then came Marissa, hair curled within an inch of its life, white blazer like a lab coat, a PowerPoint already queued up on her tablet. She breezed in and immediately positioned herself at the head of the table, flashing her signature, "This is all going great." Grin, "Morning," she chirped. "Thanks for making time, I'll be leading today's session. I've prepped a walkthrough of all outstanding documents, and just a heads up, we've got snacks arriving around 10:15, like this was a brunch and not a federal compliance review." She barely glanced in my direction before launching into her spiel, clicking through slide after slide like a hostage trying to outrun a ransom clock. Miranda interrupted on slide 4. "Sorry, can we pause?" she asked, voice level. "I just want to verify something before we continue." "Of course," Marissa beamed. Miranda turned her laptop around to display a spreadsheet with columns labeled Document Title, Required Signatory, Timestamp, Certification Status. It was color-coded. Most rows were green. One row was red. Regulatory Compliance Attestation Pending. "Can you walk me through this one?" Miranda asked. Marissa didn't even blink. "Oh, that's just an internal formality. Clerical stuff. It doesn't block anything." "Who's responsible for signing it?" one of the client reps asked. Marissa glanced down. "Technically our director of compliance, but again, this is legacy language. We've updated our structure. It's not a gating item anymore." I looked at Miranda. Then I reached into my bag, pulled out my compliance ID card, and slid it across the table. A pause. Miranda picked it up. "Read it," her eyebrows ticked upward. "Hannah Blackwell, Director of Compliance Oversight, authorized signatory federal transactions above $100M. She looked up. "Is this still accurate?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because right then, Marissa's smile cracked just slightly, enough to see the panic begin to bubble underneath. "Oh," she said too brightly. "Right, but we've been restructuring, so Hannah's just here as a courtesy." Miranda looked back at me. "Have you signed the attestation form?" "No, why not?" "Because I haven't been presented with a compliant final draft, nor have I been officially notified of structural changes affecting my role." One of the client's associates, an older man in a navy suit with the kind of tired eyes that have seen 500 deals and too many mistakes, leaned forward, and "If you don't sign it," I met his gaze. "The deal doesn't close." Another pause, this one longer, denser. Marissa laughed. It sounded like glass shattering underwater. "I think we're blowing this out of proportion. This isn't a legal hurdle, it's internal bureaucracy." "Bureaucracy that's federally mandated," Miranda replied, voice low. I could feel it then, the shift. The temperature in the room dropping as the client's team recalibrated. They weren't smiling anymore. They weren't nodding, they were taking notes. One of them asked for a printed copy of the original compliance charter. I already had it. Slid it across the table too. Marissa didn't speak again for the rest of the meeting. By the time the clock hit 10:15, the only snacks anyone wanted were answers. The client's questions turned surgical. Dates, names, delegations. They asked for email chains, version history. Who exactly had been tasked with final compliance prep? Hadn't Hannah been part of earlier briefings? Why did the timestamp logs show no activity from the compliance portal in over a week? Marissa kept shifting in her chair like her Spanx were cutting off circulation. And me, I sat perfectly still. Not smug, not gloating, just still. Because this was the point of no return. The part in every bad play where the curtain falls, and the actors realize the audience was awake the whole time. Let them build their house of cards. And now, a single gust of truth had started to blow. By that afternoon, I could practically hear the fire alarms going off behind the glass walls of the executive floor, even though nobody had the guts to actually pull one. Marissa was unraveling. First came the frantic Slack messages, ping, 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 followed by a quick sync invite from HR marked fire high priority fire. I ignored it, not because I wanted to be petty, because nothing about that meeting was for me. It was damage control theater, and I wasn't the one who'd set the stage on fire. From what Rachel told me later, via a well-timed sticky note left on my chair, Marissa had marched into HR like a tornado wrapped in a pantsuit, shouting that I had willfully misinterpreted her intentions and obstructed the deal process out of personal bitterness. Apparently, she used the phrase, a classic boomer vendetta. I was born in 1980. HR, to their credit, didn't bite. They simply asked if she had documentation of my reassignment. She didn't, because there wasn't any. Then she pivoted, claimed I was on sabbatical, that Trevor had been temporarily empowered to act on my behalf. The HR rep apparently asked, very calmly, was that delegated in writing and acknowledged by compliance operations? Cue the silence. Meanwhile, the CEO was still off the grid, allegedly at some executive leadership retreat that definitely didn't include Wi-Fi, accountability, or adult supervision. No one could reach him. The board chair left 2 voicemails, 3 texts, and 1 very pointed email with the subject line, "Need clarity signatory chain immediate." Still no reply. By end of day, legal started to crack. A junior associate poked her head into my office like a raccoon caught in someone's fridge. "Hey, Hannah," she said, voice way too cheerful for someone who clearly hadn't slept in 24 hours. "Quick question, did you happen to see the final compliance packet go through this week?" I blinked at her like she'd asked if I was storing plutonium in my desk drawer. "No," I said, "I haven't signed anything, nor have I been presented with anything for review." She nodded too fast. Cool. "No worries, thanks." She disappeared like a fart in a wind tunnel. By 6 p.m., word had spread, not a single compliance document had been authorized. Not one. And since the system logs everything, even the absence of a signature was a form of data. A red flag, that's when the real shoe dropped. Rachel showed up again, holding a manila envelope with a look on her face like she was handing over a court summons. She set it gently on my desk. "Thought you'd want to see this," she whispered, and left. Inside was a printed document, one I hadn't seen yet. It was a scanned submission from Marissa's camp, sent to the Federal Regulatory Portal for early review. Probably meant to make it look like things were in progress even though no formal compliance steps had been taken. Stamped diagonally across the top of the document, in bright crimson letters, were 2 words: non-compliant submission, the reason listed, missing formal attestation, required signatory absent, protocol violation section 4.2b. That stamp didn't appear by accident. It appeared because I'd pre-flagged the system. Back on Tuesday, I'd logged a soft hold in the portal, an internal note signaling potential disruption in the approval chain. It didn't freeze anything outright, but it ensured any premature submissions would be flagged for review, like setting up a tripwire in the dark. And now they'd tripped it. I slid the document into my private folder and wrote a single line in my compliance log. Unauthorized submission triggered Federal Alert, origin unclear, pending investigation. No drama, just facts. Facts wrapped in very sharp corners. Across the hallway, Marissa's office door slammed. 5 minutes later, someone from IT knocked on mine. "Hey, sorry to bother you. We're just updating some internal access privileges per a request from above. Mind logging out for a second?" I closed my laptop, stood up, and asked calmly, "Whose request?" He hesitated. "Marissa's. Said you were stepping back." I smiled. "You'll want to check with legal before proceeding. I'm still the primary compliance officer on an active federal transaction. Any access interruption during this stage is a reportable event." He went pale. "I'll double-check that. Smart kid." When I sat back down, the room felt different, like something had snapped into place. The tension that had been building all week, quietly coiling tighter and tighter, finally began to hum with friction. I hadn't yelled, I hadn't stormed into a single office, but every move I'd made had been deliberate, documented, defensive, and now the paper was fighting back for me. Marissa thought victory meant leading the meeting, owning the room, controlling the slides. But victory in my world is silence. It's the absence of approval, the presence of delay, the scream of a clock that's run out of time. By Monday morning, the CEO had finally returned from whatever 5-star spiritual nap he'd been on. He swept into the building like Moses coming down the mountain, tan, overconfident, and furious that his kingdom was no longer humming like a well-oiled lie. He didn't stop to say hello, didn't ask who died. He just barged into the executive floor war room where the remaining execs were hunched over laptops like they were defusing a bomb and roared, "Why is this deal delayed?" That exact sentence, loud enough to echo down the hallway and make a paralegal spill her latte. Rachel, bless her soul, texted me the moment it happened. "Moses has descended, wants blood." Apparently, the room froze. Marissa, cornered, tried to play it cool. She launched into a flurry of buzzwords like a malfunctioning AI. Just a few process bottlenecks, transitional friction points, minor procedural rerouting, nothing material. Translation, we poked the bear and now the bear has federal claws. The CEO looked at her like he was trying to remember what HR had warned him about nepotism. He asked, calmly, "Who's managing compliance right now?" Marissa opened her mouth. And that's when someone, still don't know who, leaked the email. The one she sent to HR. The one with the subject line, "Take 1 week and she's gone nail polish the body? Don't CC her, she's dead weight. I'll have Trevor shadow the compliance stuff so it still looks like it's covered. By the time legal notices will be too deep in the deal to backtrack." Smiley face included. The board chair saw it. Legal saw it. IT saw it. Half the damn intern pool probably saw it. And the client. They got a copy forwarded anonymously. The email ended up in Miranda's inbox. She printed it and dropped it, on the table during a scheduled call that same morning. Their lead negotiator reportedly stared at it for a full 10 seconds, then said, "If internal governance at your firm is this unstable, we'll need to reevaluate the timeline and perhaps the valuation." Then came the threat. Unless they received written confirmation that the proper compliance protocol had resumed and the rightful signatory had been reinstated, they were prepared to walk. No ceremony, no drama, just exit. That threat landed like a piano in the middle of a wedding. The board chair lost it. Not publicly, of course, these people don't yell, they seethe. But the next hour was a flurry of silent meetings behind closed doors, frantic phone calls, and emergency scheduling requests, which led to the calendar ping I got at 1:17 p.m. Subject line, compliance signature, emergency boardroom review, no emoji this time. Just a location, a time, 3 o'clock sharp, and a short line under notes. Board, CEO, client, legal present. I accepted. Then I stood up, stretched my legs, and pulled my suit jacket off the back of my chair, the dark navy one I keep for funerals, depositions, and vindication. Didn't print anything, didn't prep a deck, didn't rehearse a speech. Because when you're the only person holding the legal match that lights the entire acquisition on fire, you don't ask to be taken seriously. You let the oxygen run out first. At 2:57, I walked into the boardroom. The air was thick like a thunderstorm before it breaks. The CEO was already seated, staring at a legal pad he wasn't writing on. The board chair stood by the window, arms crossed. Jaw clenched, Marissa sat near the far end of the table, shrinking into her blazer like it might become a parachute. Miranda nodded at me, calm and composed as ever. No one spoke. I placed my leather binder on the table, clicked it open, and took my seat. The CEO finally cleared his throat. "Hannah, we're here to clarify a few things." I nodded, of course. He glanced at Marissa, then quickly away. "There's been confusion around the compliance process. I'd like to confirm where things stand." I met his gaze. "Do you want the short answer or the long one?" The board chair raised a hand. "We want the documented one." I slid a single sheet forward, my printed compliance log from the past week. No commentary, just dates, times, and formal notations of every request ignored, every submission flagged, every system timestamp left untriggered. "Nothing has been signed," I said. "Nothing can be signed. Not until this meeting happens and certain questions are answered." No one moved. Then Miranda, God bless her, picked up my ID card, which I'd placed gently beside the log, and read aloud, "Director of Compliance Oversight. Authorized federal signatory for transactions over $100 million. She looked at the CEO and said, deadpan, "So who, exactly, authorized this firing?" The silence that followed was thick enough to butter toast. We weren't at the climax yet, but the stage was finally set, and I was holding the script they'd all forgotten existed. Marissa cracked first. Of course she did. The moment the client's legal team sat down, stone-faced and not smiling, her voice dropped an octave and she leaned forward with the kind of polished, insincere charm that usually precedes a knife in the back. "Look," she said, pushing her chair slightly toward me as if we were suddenly best friends at a spa retreat, "I think we can all agree things got a little scrambled. Miscommunications, assumptions, yada yada. It happens in high-stakes environments, right?" She let out a performative little chuckle. "But let's move forward. Water under the bridge." She even reached out as if to pat my hand. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I let her arm hover there in the air like a forgotten drone, drifting into irrelevance. Across the table, the lead client rep, a man named Curtis Langdon, who once negotiated a $700M joint venture while recovering from emergency gallbladder surgery, picked up my compliance ID card from the table like it was exhibit A in a court case. He spun it in his fingers for a beat, then slid it gently, deliberately back toward the CEO. Not Marissa, not the board chair. The CEO. "Frank," he said, calm as a sleeping lion, "the entire $150 million deal requires her signature. Who exactly authorized this firing?" No one breathed, not even the HVAC. The CEO blinked, once, twice. You could almost hear the beads of sweat forming behind his collar. Well, he stammered, there was never a formal. She told HR I was gone, I said, still not raising my voice. She instructed IT to remove my access credentials. She appointed someone else to shadow my responsibilities, and then told legal I was unavailable due to mental exhaustion. I have it all documented. I pulled a page from my binder and slid it forward. The original email, the one with the nail polish emoji. The board chair picked it up, read it once, and slowly set it down like it burned. Curtis gave a small, humorless laugh. Gentlemen, he said, looking at the board, this isn't a documentation issue. It's a governance collapse. And I need to know if the people sitting across from me are in charge of this company, or if you're letting junior executives with personal agendas nuke your valuation from the inside. Marissa opened her mouth. The board chair raised a hand. She stopped mid-breath, teeth clicking shut like a trap. The CEO tried again. Hannah, surely we can. I've filed no approvals, I said, flipping to a clean sheet. No attestation. No certification. I even triggered a protocol flag that marked the deal as non-compliant. Your submission has already been rejected by the portal. The clock is ticking on your resubmission window. I looked at Curtis. They have 72 hours before the delay crosses into material breach territory. He nodded once. We're aware. The client's legal counsel leaned in next. If the compliance disruption is unresolved by then, our board will be advised to reassess the merger terms. Pending full audit, that will not be favorable. Translation, you've got 3 days to undo your mess or kiss the deal and your job's goodbye. Marissa looked like she wanted to vanish. No words now. Just that twitch in her jaw like her whole mouth was arguing with her brain about whether to scream or sob. The board chair finally spoke. His voice was quiet, flat, and terrifying. This is no longer an HR matter. This is a threat to the firm's reputation and market integrity. He looked at the CEO, and you let it happen. Then at Marissa, and you orchestrated it. Then finally at me. Hannah, what do you need to resume your responsibilities? My answer was simple. Practiced. Ready. Written reinstatement. Unconditional. System access restored. No interference. All future compliance questions routed through my office. And I didn't even look at Marissa, does not come within 100 feet of any regulatory documentation again. No one argued. The board chair nodded. Done. I stood, gathered my documents, and said, then you have 71 hours remaining. As I turned to leave, Curtis added one final line, spoken softly but sharp as a scalpel. You all treated her like a formality. He looked around the room. She's the firewall. And you almost burned the whole thing down. I didn't smile until I reached the elevator. And even then, it was only halfway. The next day, they called another meeting, this time without the soft smiles or quasas. There were no welcome-back balloons on my desk, no nervous HR rep trying to smooth the wrinkles out of reality. Just a sterile calendar invite, board plus legal plus compliance urgent action required. The conference room was cold. On purpose, I assumed. Everything in it had been stripped down to the bare essentials. Water bottles, legal pads, silence. The kind of atmosphere where empires either got cemented or detonated. The client's full legal team was there. Curtis sat with his arms crossed and a look on his face like he was already planning the funeral. Miranda gave me a small nod when I walked in. The CEO was in the corner, pale and pinched, clearly trying to hold it together with what was left of his dignity. Marissa sat 2 chairs down from him, eyes red, mascara already in full retreat, chewing her bottom lip like it owed her something. I set my binder on the table, clicked it open, and carefully pulled out the single sheet I'd placed on top the night before. This, I said, sliding the page forward, is a signed compliance hold order, dated last Tuesday. Initiated at 2:14 p.m. I turned the paper so everyone could read it, filed under my credentials. Signed, timestamped, and marked with the regulatory system ID. I issued a voluntary delay, I said evenly, to protect the firm. The reason listed, pending investigation into internal personnel disruptions affecting protocol integrity. Nobody moved, not at first. Then Miranda reached for the page, scanned it, and gave a tiny, impressed smile. Smart, she said. Curtis nodded once. Very. The CEO swallowed hard. You held the deal? I met his eyes. I didn't kill it, I protected it from being poisoned. Marissa made a sound, half breath, half sob. I didn't, this wasn't supposed to. You jeopardized the largest acquisition in company history, the board chair said quietly, not even looking at her. His gaze stayed locked on the document, like it was a mirror showing him everything they'd refused to see. He turned toward the CEO next, and you allowed it. The CEO didn't respond. He looked like he was trying to evaporate through his own pores. I let the silence stretch for another beat, then I stood up. Effective immediately, I said, my replacement as Director of Compliance Oversight has been approved. The room stiffened. Marissa blinked. Wait, you're leaving? No, I said, I'm transitioning. Then I dropped the final twist. Miranda, I turned toward her. Would you mind confirming? She pulled out her phone, opened a message. Read aloud. Client recommends immediate elevation of Hannah Blackwell to Chief Compliance Liaison across all pending joint regulatory initiatives. Approval signed by both boards last night. I looked around the room. I've been in discussions with the client's general counsel for the last 48 hours. Given the instability here, they requested a point person who understands both systems and politics. I agreed. The board chair looked stunned. You're not resigning? I'm being promoted by the people who understand the cost of underestimating silence. I reached down, closed my binder, and gave a brief nod to Curtis, Miranda, and the rest of their team. My part of the process is complete. I'll have my office cleared by Friday. You'll be receiving a transition memo by noon today. My first task in the new role will be rebuilding the compliance relationship with your firm from the outside. Marissa's face crumpled. The CEO's eyes glazed. The board chair just leaned back slowly, exhaled, and said nothing. As I walked to the door, Curtis called out one last time. Hannah, I turned. Thanks for not warning them, I smiled. They wouldn't have listened anyway. And I left them sitting there in the cold, gray room, surrounded by their own noise, blinking through the silence I'd used to take everything back. Quiet, ruthless, and absolutely earned. Thanks for watching, you Cubicle Warriors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own. Revenge of the Coffee Pot strikes again.